What is up, my beautiful gemstones? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. This is your regular pre-recorded Monday upload and not a part of my 7 nights of Halloween that I'm doing this week. I am in the same outfit because I am filming 4 videos today, and this is the last one. I did not feel like changing. Also, this is going to be much shorter than my normal Monday uploads because I'm also continuing with the 7 nights of Halloween tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time, the night that you are watching this Monday. So please be patient and understanding with me. I just didn't feel like getting changed for a 4th time, guys. All right. We are going to be discussing this morning the Bosak encounter. It's a lesser known extraterrestrial, kind of obscure, but I guess if it was a movie, it'd be a cult classic, but this is a real extraterrestrial encounter that a lot of people in the public do not know about, but it is known throughout the community of investigators, and it's actually quite popular, and it's pretty amazing. As we know here on this channel, or as we've learned by now, UFO encounters are ground zero for some serious high strangeness, and while delving deep in the records of those types of reports, I often find some true gems that most people have never even heard about, but that are as bizarre and crazy as it gets. Some of the encounters just seem to slip through the cracks of time and end up completely forgotten by the community, and no one really ever talks about them again. Sure, they'll occasionally be dug up by some random researcher at some point, but for whatever reason, some bizarre encounters end up really gaining traction and others don't. But in my opinion, they all have the ability to really open our eyes to see what's happening to people in the wakes of these types of encounters. It's mind-bending and mind-blowing. There are others still regarding so-called alien encounters that seem to pick up steam and basically launch themselves into a pantheon of great cases, regardless of whether or not there are more than a few people who have witnessed the whole thing or there are hundreds who saw what went on. One such encounter that was only witnessed by one very credible person is the one I would like to discuss with you all here today, and that's what's come to be called and known as the Bosak encounter. Let's jump right in. On the freezing cold night of December 2nd, 1975, in Frederick, Polk County, Wisconsin, a dairy farmer named William Bosak was making his way home from a meeting at around 10 o'clock at night. The night was uncommonly foggy, and as he made his way along the final, very desolate and rural road that led to his farmhouse, the fog was so thick it was said to have blanketed everything as if it had snowed heavily that night. William tried his best to navigate the treacherous conditions of the already very dark back road, but visibility was severely limited, and he had to take his speed down to nothing more than a slow crawl in order to make sure he made it home in one piece and safely. He knew the roads like the back of his hand, but it was so foggy. It was like a whiteout condition. As he crept along the last mile to his house, he noticed what he described as a sort of glowing light piercing through the mist, and as he drew closer to whatever it was, he realized it looked almost like his own vehicle's headlights bouncing or reflecting off of some sort of metallic surface. He was already on his own family's property, even though he hadn't reached the house yet, and he knew very well that there shouldn't have been anything that could be reflecting his lights in that way anywhere on the entire property, let alone where he was. He was perplexed, and so he slowed his vehicle down to where he was almost completely stopped, and that's when this whole thing took a turn for the bizarre. As he got closer, he carved through the veil of fog and saw that the motionless object was much larger than he had originally thought, and that it stood at about 10 feet high, and he saw that same semi-spherical shape was made of what looked to be some sort of shiny material like glass or highly polished metal. William was amazed, and he let his eyes wander all over the otherworldly structure, and that's when he saw something that was even odder still. He noticed that near the top of the object, there was a section of it that was illuminated, and that seemed to be a curved glass window. Sitting inside of the little room with the big curved window was a creature, a humanoid being, the likes of which he had never seen before. The being was right up at the glass and had its hands raised and pressed to it. It was almost as if it were as shocked as William was that he could see it or that he had noticed it. William would later say of the creature, quote, "It looked a good deal like a man, but it had a different looking face than you'd see. It had a kind of cow-looking face. It was covered with dark tan fur except for its face and chin. It had a square face with hair sticking straight out the sides. The ears stuck out from the head about 3 inches, and the eyes were large and protruding. The ears were calf-like," end quote. William would later speculate that the fur he thought he had seen was perhaps some sort of suit, but there had been no collar or anything else that would have given away the fact at that time. There were also no fasteners, buttons, belts, or anything like that. William said he was unable to get a good look at the lower portion of the being because it had been obscured by the thick fog that had been around the area at the time of the encounter. Oddly enough, he went on to say that the creature looked and seemed just as scared and surprised at the sight of him as he himself had been feeling at the sight of it. The two regarded each other with a lot of fear in their eyes for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, William isn't sure, before he started to experience a different type of emotion. He got this feeling of intense dread unlike anything he had ever experienced before, and as the initial shock started to wear off, he was more aware of the possible danger he might be in. The sense of terror and dread was raw and profound enough that it sparked a sense of desperate panic in him, and he wanted to nope the F out of there as fast as humanly possible. He slammed on the gas and floored it out of there as the still startled looking being watched him go. He was quickly careening down the road in the middle of the darkness with a seemingly impenetrable fog all around him, barely able to see, when suddenly his car's headlights dimmed and he heard a strange whooshing sound on what seemed to be the roof of the vehicle. He described that sound by likening it to when tree branches brush along the top of a car or vehicle, and while under normal circumstances it would have been an innocuous sound, under the circumstances and with his heightened fear and terror coursing through his body and mind, it took on something much more ominous, but he didn't know what. When he finally reached his driveway, he went tearing up it and ran to his front door, slamming and locking the door behind him immediately. After safely shutting himself inside of the home, he ran to the window and noticed that the craft was no longer there and the frigid dark night was all that was staring back at him. The fog hadn't dissipated, and so he went back out there in the relative safety of the daylight and without the fog making it possible to see just inches in front of him. However, he was unable to find any evidence that anything had happened to him, for the most part, that anything out of the ordinary had even been out there in the first place. There was nothing. The only thing that seemed to be left over out there from the harrowing ordeal he had suffered just the night before was a round circle pressed into the earth that measured approximately 6 feet in diameter. But there was no sign that there had ever been any sort of creature or anything. William was left with his thoughts as to what happened to him and what exactly he had been dealing with in the first place. Remember, guys, 1975 wasn't exactly when the world was much open to the idea of aliens and spacecrafts running amok everywhere. And when someone who had their reputation to think about, it was unlikely anyone would talk about it anyway, even if it did happen to them. A lot of encounters happened, late or mid to late 50s through the late 70s that we just came to find out about in the last couple of decades because they didn't want to talk about it back then. In fact, William would keep the encounter to himself for weeks until eventually he couldn't hold it in any longer and decided to tell his family about it. After that, it somehow spread like wildfire and ended up in a local newspaper called the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and William was later interviewed by a UFO field investigator from the Wisconsin-based Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, or APRO, by the name of Everett E. Leitner, to whom William would give a very detailed version of events. He actually expressed deep regret that he allowed his fear to overcome him and fled so fast, and he said he would have liked to have tried to communicate with the humanoid figure if possible. He said that he was terrified and somewhat out of his mind with it, but he also stressed that the figure in the window had seemed just as terrified as he had been, and that in his opinion it wasn't malevolent at all. He explained his fear, meaning William's, had been completely irrational, and the being had given him no reason to fear it, other than by merely being present. He offered to take a lie detector test and insisted he was telling the truth. A strange thing William said, though, was that other people had seen the same thing, but that they weren't willing to come forward. No one knows still who he's talking about because no one else, no one at all, ever mentioned seeing anything like this in that area at that time, whether in that place that night or anywhere else. This has never been described before as far as the ufology community is aware. It isn't like he saw these guys, right? After extensive questioning of not only William, but of his friends, family, and acquaintances, it was found that he was a credible and reliable witness who wouldn't make something like this up. At the very least, Leitner believed that William believed he saw what he said he did. This more than likely would have remained one of those weird one-off cases where some random person in some random place sees what they believe to be a UFO and or an extraterrestrial, had it not been picked up by the extraterrestrial community and constantly republished. It has now acquired a reputation as a classic and as a true case for the most part, despite there being no physical evidence to back it up. It's crazy because when I looked into this case, it's almost like it's legendary in the community, but only to the few who are aware of it and based on nothing but one eyewitness testimony. Was William Bosak hallucinating? Was he making it all up? I would have to ask why he would make it all up because, like I said, at the time, he was taking a big risk coming forward at all and in the first place. People who claimed to see aliens in crafts back then didn't last very long professionally, and it even sometimes ruined their entire lives. There have been wild speculations about what this could have been and thinking along the lines of it having happened, with my favorite by far being that it was Bigfoot piloting the UFO. Hey, listen, I don't know much about the connection between Bigfoot and extraterrestrials or if there even definitely is one, but that explanation was just ridiculous to me. But as I always say, what do I say? To each his own, live your life. Was it an alien or aliens? Was it interdimensional beings? Why did they only land there and nowhere else? And why was William the only one to have seen them? It's my belief that the being was more than likely scared because he or it didn't expect to have been spotted somehow in this giant metallic ship that would stick out like a sore thumb to anyone, even in the most treacherous and densest of fogs, to any human being anywhere on the planet. However, as many of you already know, I put a lot of stock into intuition, and if this gave him a sense of impending doom and danger, as he stated it did at first, I wouldn't have questioned it either, and I would have gotten myself out of there just as quickly as well. Guys, you never know. And normally there's a reason when we feel that way, when our instinct, when our gut, our intuition tells us, flee immediately. Danger, danger, stranger danger, stranger danger. You know what I'm saying? He admitted to his fear, after all. The instinctual hit of danger and dread was something separate from the terror he felt in the moment. There might have been something in store for him had he not gotten out of there. He was feeling fear. He was terrified. But something primal inside of him was telling him to get the hell out. Now. Waste no time. Make haste. Beat feet. Also, how do we know that fear to us is fear to an alien? What if fear to them is anger or rage? He could have sincerely and seriously pissed that thing in the craft off, or it could have had others with it. Maybe it was trying to distract him. Guys, it had his hands up like this, right? I give up. I surrender. Come on, guys. Yeah. Guys, this is how my speculative mind works, okay? It's moving fast as ever and being as it usually is all over the place. There's no definitive facts, and all that we know, I just told you. That's it. There's no more. Thank you for hanging out despite this video being so short. Take pity on me. I've done 7 videos in 7 days. 7 in 6 days as of when you're going to watch the next video tonight. Okay, I'm doing so much right now, all for you guys because I love you guys so much and I don't want to let y'all down and I want to stick to what I say I'm doing. So take pity on me because this is I didn't realize how short this one was going to be, and because I'm still in the same clothes and hair, I just couldn't do it one more time. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, if you enjoyed hanging out with one another in the premiere, and if you're enjoying my 7 nights of Halloween Spooky Fest. I don't know what time Steven and I will be live streaming on Halloween night, but I do know that Halloween during the day at 1 p.m. Eastern time, we will still be doing Afternoon Talk, our Tuesday talk show. So Lara might accompany us. We might have some other guests come on. I'm trying to get Sunny from the Paranormal Chop Shop, but I'm not sure yet as of when I'm filming this, which is a Friday. So I have a little time yet to figure all that out. And I really do want to do something live on Halloween night. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We're doing our best for you guys as we always do. Check out the description box for a PayPal, Cash App, Patreon, Amazon wishlist, gift link, ways to donate to the channel, my books, Missing the Faith Theory, Encounters with Evils, 101 True and Terrifying Stories, and Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis and Beyond on Kindle, paperback, on Amazon. Yeah, got that right. Like I said, filmed 4 videos today, guys, and some reading. So, you know, gotta get there. Also, check out the description box for my email address, for things that I sell, for links to jivecreations.com, where you can find Gemma Jade and Ghost Dragon merchandise, and pretty much anything you want customized. Arisha over there, one of our lovely Tennessee twins with Miss Lotus Girl, my sisters from another Mista, and the other 2 charmed ones, obvi. Guys, be kind to each other. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. If nobody told you today you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're perfectly imperfect, you are exactly who you are meant to be. You got this. Do not let anyone tell you you can't do something that you want to do. If someone doesn't believe in you, that's okay. You believe in you. I believe in you. I got your back. Always go in grace, smile at a stranger, and happy Halloween. Bye.